Hi, Vanessa here from Team Symplify. This video is all about using Symplify in teletherapy and specifically about using two device mode on one device. So I just wanted to show you a few ways that you can use the functionality of two device mode, which gives you a lot more options than one device mode. But without having to use a secondary device. So I tend to still use a second device in my session, so I like to have the game full screen on my laptop, and then I have my phone to run the session, because it just means that then I'm getting kind of maximum space to share the game with my client. And it also means that I'm not kind of flicking between screens, and I know that I can sort of control what's happening over here on my phone. It works for me, but for lots of people, they've said that actually they prefer to do it on the one device, on the one screen, because it just takes out an extra element of technology, and it works for them. So I wanted to just show you how you can do that. There's a couple of ways that it can work. So I'm going to start off just setting it up as if I was getting everything ready before a session. So I'm going to go over onto my desktop and I'm going to open up Google Chrome. So we generally recommend Chrome as the best browser to use with Symplify. Other browsers work fine too, apart from Internet Explorer. Everything else pretty much should behave, but Chrome is the best. So what I'm going to do is log into my Symplify account on here. And then I'm going to open a second tab on Chrome and log in again. And what we're going to do is essentially treat each of these tabs as a separate device for our two device mode. So on this device, on this tab, I'm going to set up my game. So I'm going to just do a simple card game. I'll use my 3 and 4 Syllabella animals list. I'm not going to have any boxes, I'm just going to keep it super simple. Just have a green background, and there we go. So I want to control a session from this device, client uses other device. Now in this case, our other device is actually just this tab right here next door, which we will be sharing with our client through Zoom, Teams, WebEx, whatever we're using. So I'm going to press continue on there, and then it's going to tell me it's waiting for a second device. So I've now gone onto my second tab, and on here I'm going to go to two device mode. Now you can now close that one if you like, just to keep things simple. So you've then got your game screen ready with our lovely bright green, and over here, yeah, it's connected, we can start the session. And then you can start sending some cards over, put some borders on if you want to, send them over, and then we'll flick back to our second tab, and there they are. So this can work well if you want to be sharing your entire screen. So in fact, if I maximise this, now this would look slightly different on a Windows machine, but it's roughly the same idea. And I can even go take away the toolbar, and there you go, it's as big as possible. So that just means that then you've shared as big a screen as you can. But if you then want to switch between the tabs, you're going to have to put that toolbar back on so you can switch between them and send new symbols. Depending on how you share the screen with your client, will depend whether they can only see this tab or whether they can see you switching between both tabs. Now, different systems allow you to do it slightly differently. So let's have a look at Zoom, which I'm on at the moment, and see what that lets me do. So if I share my screen, and I go on here, I think it's going to share both of them. Yeah, so it's now going to share both of those screens. So if you want your client to see the game runner, which sometimes you might want to if they're getting involved with picking the vocabulary, for instance, or picking the border colours, things like that, that can actually be really useful to do it that way and have them on the same window, but with the two tabs to switch between. But quite often you probably don't want your client to see the game runner because it's going to disrupt the game, particularly if you're doing, let's say you're doing a sorting game with the monsters in the categories game, and you're sending over symbols really regularly for them to sort out. you'll find that you're constantly switching back and forth between them, and then that's going to be distracting for your client. So the alternative to that is to separate these out. So I'm going to put it back to sort of normal size rather than being maximised. Now on a Mac, what you can do is just drag that, and it will give you it as a separate window. Again, it's possibly slightly different on a Windows machine. You might need to just go on here on the Chrome menu and just go New Window, and then that'll bring up another one. But we don't need 3, so I'll get rid of that one. What you can then do is just share one of those windows. So if we go back to Zoom, if I stop the share, back onto Zoom here, and screen share again, you'll now see we've got those as 2 separate things we can share. So if I just share that one, so you can see that there's a lovely green border around this particular window. If I move it, you can see it disappears and then comes back again. So that just shows you which window you're sharing with your client. So this one that I've got our game runner on, no green border around it, so we know that they can't see that one. So if you're doing a game where you need to have this window, the game window, nice and big, filling up the screen like I've got here, then doing it this way can work really well. So just having a little bit of an overlap there so you can easily kind of switch between them is handy. However, to make it even more kind of convenient for you, what you can do is drag the screens next to each other. So you can make that one smaller, and make this one smaller. In fact, that one can go as small as it'll let you. And then you can kind of use this one to fill up the rest of the space. So actually that's still a fairly reasonable space. You can get a lot of cards on there. You know, if you were playing one of the monster games, you'd still get quite a few monsters along the bottom and quite a few cards on. So that's probably fine. And then that means that you can see them both and you can really easily switch between them. So if you want to send over some more, we've already got a rhino, haven't we? Let's have a alligator and an antelope. And then you can see both screens at the same time. So that's probably the slickest way of using it, or the most similar to using it with a secondary device. And you'll see that, you know, the way I've set up the game runner here on the right, it sort of looks a bit like a mobile. That the interface on the screen where I've squashed it makes it look the same as it looks on mobile. So you are essentially replicating that idea. So different teletherapy systems or video conferencing systems will have slightly different options with the screen share. You also might find that if you're working for a health trust or NHS trust in the UK, you may have limitations on how you can do the screen share. Usually this way is okay. Usually it doesn't let you share the whole desktop because then your client can then potentially access your emails and things like that. But they do differ slightly, and it depends whether you've got remote control as an option and things like that. So have a little bit of a play with the tech that you're using and see what works for you. But yeah, hopefully that just gives you a bit of an idea of how you can get around the 2 device thing without necessarily needing that second device. And we would always say to open up the games in 2 device mode. The categories game and the auditory discrimination game you can only do in 2 device mode because you need that game runner, this part, for the games to work. So obviously you need to be able to send over the symbols. With the card game, there is an option to start the card game in a single device mode, but that just gives you 1 copy of each card, no coloured borders, no symbol search bar here, no send words tool. It's just literally a really quick way of just loading up your list as just a single pack of those cards. So unless you're in a real rush and you really don't need that game runner, I would say always do it in some sort of 2 device mode, but perhaps doing it this way with the 2 windows might work better for you rather than having to have a secondary device alongside your laptop or desktop. I think that's about it. It's easy.